Hello beautiful! Welcome back to Nat's Beautiful Life, and the third time I have tried to film this video. I filmed it twice last week and it was just pandemonium in this house and there was just no way, and I gave up. So a little bit quieter for a few more minutes, so I thought I would do my February wrap up. If you're new to this channel, hello, my name is Natasha and I do videos on books, beauty, and bullet journaling. I would love it if you would subscribe and click the little notification bell so you never miss a video. So I finished, I believe, 7 or 8 books in the month of February, and here they are. If you were here last month, you know that in January, the last book that I finished was this one, The Fountains of Silence by Marissa. I've already talked about this a lot, so I won't go into it, but what I loved about it is a historical fiction novel, which is not normally my jam, but I have just loved this so much. But it's a fictional story that takes place during a real war and time period and all that, and there's a lot of the like in between some of the sections, not necessarily chapters. Of course, none of them are going to show up now. Oh yeah, so you have little sections like this is an excerpt from Ambassador Lodge Corrects the Record, American Diplomacy Journal, that kind of thing, blah blah blah. So what I'm saying is I found that I really enjoy historical fiction that has the real history woven in. That being said, the first book of February, finally, was this one. It is The Woman in the Photo by Mary Hogan. I loved this book so much. I can't even describe to you how much I loved this book. This has been sitting on my shelf for months, if not over a year. I saw the synopsis or read the synopsis of it in the bookstore. I thought it looked cool. Put it on my shelf. Once again, historical fiction is not something I normally gravitate towards, so it just sat on my shelf. But it is a dual timeline. It takes place in present day and also 1889. So what you have is a girl who is about to turn 18 in present day, and she gets a note. She's adopted. She gets a note from the state that on her 18th birthday, they have some information to give her about her genetics or something like that from her adopted family and all of that. So she has no idea who her ancestors are, and she, it was a closed adoption, all that stuff. Anyway, she sees a photo. Her and her adoptive mother go to check this stuff out. There's a photo that's in the file, and it is a woman in the 1880s. And beside her, they notice that it's, the mom's like, that's Clara Barton, who is the person who brought the American Red Cross here. So, I'll talk about that a little bit more, because this book made me buy another book. But anyway, even if you didn't have that story, the 1889 story, which is Elizabeth, which would be this girl's ancestor, I could have just done with that. It takes place in the camp and all that stuff of the Johnstown, Pennsylvania flood of 1889, and it's just so good. It was one that I could not wait to pick up every day, and was like looking for little pockets of time to see what happens, and I really did enjoy this, and I highly recommend it. I think the next book I read, I actually don't have. It's Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the 3rd book in the Caraval series. Caraval, I've said before, not my favorite book. It was not what I thought it would be. But I figured I would give Legendary, the 2nd book, a try, and Legendary was what I thought Caraval should have been. So, that being said, I would own Legendary and I would own Finale, but I don't care to ever read Caraval again. I've gotten the information I need from Caraval. You do have to read that first, but trust me when I say it's worth getting through it. Some people actually enjoy it, so you might be one of those people, but I absolutely adore this series. Tella is definitely my favorite sister, and I love the whole thing. So definitely, I can't remember if I gave it a 4 out of 5, 4.5 stars or 5 star. I don't know. I gave it a high rating because I did enjoy it. It was a satisfying finale and loved it. And also, kind of funny, a lot of the books that I was reading, except for one in February, turned out to be like either historical kind of settings or like fantasies type settings, like with finale. It's so funny. Like, I've been in those like escapist kind of worlds, but pretty cool. The next book I'll talk about is right here, Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. I like this series. Some people like have mixed feelings. Some people like, meh. I think this is a cute, well, cute. I don't want to say cute. It's not really cute. I like this take on superheroes. So the first one is Renegades. I have up there somewhere. And then this is the second one. The third is Supernova. It has the mixed reviews. I will go get it anyway because I think this was my favorite one because it really kind of, it delves a little deeply into the whole anarchist versus, what are you called? Renegades? Duh. That was stupid. It goes into the whole thing and how they're all kind of morally gray. They all think they're doing the right thing for people. They're all, you know, so, and some of them are looking for revenge, and it's just like this whole story. But within that, you have Nova, who is our anarchist who has infiltrated the Renegades, and then what is the other guy's name? It's like some Adrian, yeah. And then Adrian, who is like the Renegade's renegade because his fathers are the head like renegade master people. And so you kind of have how they both see the point of both sides, but they don't know that each other sees both sides. Anyway, it's really good. It's a good kind of story of just kind of figuring out, hey, you know, the anarchists had a point, but the renegades also had a point, and then the humans they're all human, but the non-prodigies, so the regular people that have no powers, are kind of relying on the renegades a little too much for like everything. And so there's all of this going on. So this is not only a cool like superhero story, and when it comes to like the superheroes themselves, there's nothing like dramatically different as far as if you hear snoring, I'm sorry, my dog is at my feet just snoring away. But it's just yeah, they have power. People have different powers. Some of the powers are weird, some of the powers are useful, some of the powers are just kind of like, why? That's weird, that's just dumb. Because you don't have to be a renegade or an anarchist. Some people just have powers and decide to use them or ignore them, whatever. But yeah, so when you're looking for superpowers and you know, superheroes and things, you're not getting anything that's revolutionary. I think what really makes the difference is the political kind of thing and this kind of moral grayness within both camps. So I do recommend these books a lot. And I think anyone could read them, young or old, yeah. Next book I will talk about, just because I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. Last Days of Night by Graham Moore. This is an historical fiction novel about real events. So you have non-fiction elements that he's actually taken about 5 to 10 years and squeezed them into 2. And it is the war kind of thing between George Westinghouse. Is Westinghouse, right? Did I just make that up? It's Westinghouse. George Westinghouse, Thomas Edison, because we're so close, Thomas Edison, and Nikola Tesla. Excellent. So well written, and it's kind of got me wanting to read like an actual nonfiction account of this. The things that are happening in here actually happened, but on a different timeline, and he did take some liberties with like certain characters and people and how they interacted. So if you go to what's cool on his website and also some of the other websites that I checked out when I realized this is a novel, this isn't like the way it actually happened, then you have like these timelines, and it's like, this is the book and this is what really happened. And it really just was very interesting, and I highly recommend this. If you like, even if you aren't really into historical fiction, I think you could really enjoy this because it is super fast paced because, like I said, he's taking like 5+ years and shoving them into 2. And there's espionage, like corporate espionage, and what's the thing when you mess with other people's stuff? There's that. Just all kinds of stuff going on, and it's a legal war, and then just getting the personalities of these different people. And apparently they're pretty dead on within the book, the kind of personalities that these people had. So really enjoyed this book and learned a lot. Moving on. All right, so The Conference of Birds by Ransom Riggs. I love the series. If you have been introduced to the Miss Peregrine's world via the movie, forget it. It is nothing like the books. It's so bad. Why you do me like that, Samuel L. Jackson? Seriously, why you do me like that? But this is such a great series. So basically, if you're going back to the original, so this is book 5? Yeah. So if you go back to the original series, you're dealing with the peculiar children. So these are younger people who have peculiarities. So people might be able to conjure or control fire. Someone might be invisible. Someone might just be, like this one little girl has a mouth in the back of her neck that has like really sharp teeth, and that's what she eats with, and it's weird. Anyway, so what's also really cool about this book is that Ransom Riggs collects antique photographs, and he has for years, and then he took a lot of the photographs, such as this one, and he wrote them within the story and wrote the story around them and made characters look like these photographs. It's really cool. Really love it, because as a photographer, you want to think that your subjects and your work will live on forever and have a new life, and that's totally what he did with this. So the first 3 books are taking place and concentrating more on the European peculiardom, and then the last book and this book and the book to come, they're more dealing with the American peculiardom, which is totally different. Really have enjoyed these. It gets deeper, and just there's higher stakes, stuff's going down, and I have really enjoyed this. It's actually thinner than I thought it would be, because some of the others, like, let's see if I can grab this one, Map of Days was the first one in the American series. So like, wow. Excuse me, but I've totally loved these books, and they have turned some of the thoughts that we've had about the peculiardom, that is a hard word to say, on its head and all that. So really do highly recommend that series. And it's another one, it takes place in all kinds of different timelines, because these kids, these people, there's adults too, they live in time loops, and so you've got every kind of timeline there is. And yeah, go check it out. Let's move on to another book. I'm gonna talk about this one first, and then there's a simpler one to go. So from reading The Woman in the Photo, I learned a little bit about Clara Barton and was like, okay, I need to read about Clara Barton. So I went on Amazon and bought a used copy of Clara Barton, Professional Angel by Elizabeth Brown Pryor. I did annotate it. So if anybody borrows this from me, they'll get the nice annotations. What I love about this book, and yes, Clara Barton is a total just bad bee, I tell ya. She would try to help people. First, she would ask permission. If you said yes, great. If you said no, she was going to show up on the battlefield anyway. I mean, before Red Cross, before anybody knew about the Red Cross, because it was in Europe. A lot of people, I didn't realize this either. I didn't know a lot of these things. Clara Barton is the reason why the U.S. signed the Treaty of Geneva, which is what people call the Geneva Convention, the war treaty, and the Red Cross period is a part of that treaty, kind of like that body that came from that. And so when she found out about it, when she was over in Europe, by someone who's a part of the Red Cross, or the head of the Red Cross, she was like appalled that our country had not signed this treaty and that we didn't have this organization. And so she spent many, many years getting this done, and a lot of stuff. Sabotage. That's the word I was looking for when I was talking about that other book. Sabotage. There was sabotage here too. Thank you very much. But yeah, just remarkable woman. And what I also loved about this is they didn't make her a Mary Jane. A lot of times in books we use that term Mary Jane for a perfect person who does everything correctly, everything right, has no problems, is perfect. Clara Barton was not a Mary Jane by any means at all, and I love that they showed how like raw and real of a person she was. She had flaws. She was not perfect, and she did have a mental illness. She definitely, I mean, she was definitely bipolar, had some executive function disorders, things like that, but she was who you wanted in a crisis, and she didn't want to be in the office as much as she really should have been. She wanted to be out there on the battlefield, and I mean, talks about how at one point she had like a pocket knife and was digging bullets out and then like cutting limbs off that were just hanging to get them off the field. And that's what part of the treaty is. It's to, if you're wearing the Red Cross emblem and you're on the battlefield, it doesn't matter like which side you're helping. It's to give the workers, like the healthcare workers, like protection, amnesty as they're on the field, getting people off the field. And so, and something's fine. And it's also for like any side. So it doesn't matter if, you know, it's your country or the other country, or a country you're not a part of at all, because she went to other parts of Europe with her organization and helped out as well. So good. You learn a whole lot of stuff, and it was a dense book. Like, it's 400 and something pages, I think, but the way it is, if you see, it's a large page with dense, small writing shoved close together. So it's more like a 600 page book. And let me tell you, I got through it, because there were times I was like, is this book ever going to end? But at the same time, I was enjoying everything I was reading because it was so fascinating. It was so fascinating. And then it also talks about how at one point she finally was like, she realized that some of the reason why she was being taken seriously, of course, was because she was a female. And I love how she's like, I'm not going to do a man's work for any less pay than a man. And she was one of the first people to get paid like a man, and she worked. All I gotta say is I really enjoyed this book. I really love this woman. Telling you, good stuff. Last book. So after all those heavy, hard-hitting books of historical fiction, just, you know, you know how it is. I need a palate cleanse. And if you're seriously, there's stuff floating in front of me. If you're new to my channel, I have a shelf just down here, off camera, and it's just full of YA contemporary books and just simple, easy books to read, and I call them my palate cleanse. They're not always the books that, like, when I hear that they're coming out, I have to rush out and get them, but if I see a book or two, like, that looks kind of interesting or cute or okay, when I'm looking at Book Outlet or a used bookstore, you know, it's like $3-5, something like that, I'll pick them up and I'll keep them on the shelf. And so my palate cleanse was By Your Side by Kasie West. This is my first Kasie West book. Very easy to read. I think I read it in a day, I'll be honest with you, because it's YA, so it's bigger print, wider, all of that. Cute book. So the premise is Autumn and this guy she knows named Dax. She doesn't really know very much about him. There's like rumors about something that he like was in juvie or something, and I think he was, but anyway, they get locked into the library for a whole weekend, and accidentally, she gets locked in accidentally. He is actually trying to hide for the weekend from people, so he jumps into like a skylight and gets in there, and then they can't get out, but she got locked in while she was in the bathroom, and things ensue. So it's a kind of about them becoming friends and learning a little bit more about each other, and then like keeping busy. And that's really only just a little bit of the book, is them in the library, and the rest of it is their friendship kind of after. And she has like all these other friends, but she has crippling anxiety, and she has not told any of her friends, but the guy in the library saw it firsthand, and so kind of that whole thing where he's trying to convince her, you know, you need to tell people because they think you're this, that, or the other, because you just disappear, and they thought you just disappeared this time. But it turns out you were stuck in the library, and that kind of thing. So it's cute. It's not grandiose literature, but I think anyone would enjoy it. It's a nice palate cleanse, and also it's pretty clean for the kids. So you know how I am with that. I'm like, some of these new adult books, I'm just like, these are not for 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. This is some stuff. This one's pretty safe, so I think you're cool. Alright, so this video is going to take forever. I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to stop. But that's all the books I read in February. I have some really cool stuff for March, because I have been reading a lot of classics in March. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with you. It's just kind of been my thing in March. So I will see you again very soon right here on Nat's Beautiful Life. Have a great day, gorgeous.